Maplewood, Oregon, 1998, a quiet town tucked between pine forests and winding rivers. Nothing extraordinary ever happened there. People left their doors unlocked, waved at passing cars, and spent evenings at the diner talking about the weather. But everything changed on one summer night in July when Leila Morgan, a 17-year-old high school student, vanished without a trace. Leila was the kind of girl everyone noticed, but couldn't quite describe. She was quiet, but had a spark in her eyes that made people remember her. She loved photography, often wandering through the woods with her old film camera, capturing light through trees and the small details others missed. Her best friend, Hannah Reeves, often joked that one day Leila would disappear into the forest and become part of it. No one knew how eerily close that joke would come to the truth. On the evening of July 15, 1998, Leila attended a summer bonfire by the lake with a few friends. It was a small gathering, music playing from a car radio, laughter echoing across the water. Hannah remembered Leila leaving early, saying she wanted to get home before her curfew. She waved goodbye, camera slung around her neck, her hair glowing gold under the firelight. That was the last time anyone saw her. When Leila didn't come home that night, her parents thought she might have stayed at Hannah's. By morning, panic set in. Her bed hadn't been slept in, and her camera bag was missing. Her car was found parked at the edge of the forest road, keys still inside. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away, no tire marks, nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed her whole. The police searched for weeks. Volunteers combed through the woods, helicopters scanned the area, and divers searched the lake. But every lead ended in silence. The only clue they found was a single photograph in her camera, developed days later, a picture of the forest at dusk, with what looked like a faint silhouette in the distance. It was too blurry to identify, but something about it felt wrong, and settling. As days turned into weeks, Maplewood changed. Parents grew fearful, teens stopped going out after dark, and the once lively summer town turned quiet. The case made local news. Teen girl vanishes near Maplewood Lake. Reporters came and went, but nothing new ever surfaced. Eventually, the search slowed. People moved on, but the Morgan family never did. Hannah, now the only person who truly knew Leila's habits, couldn't accept that her best friend was just gone. She spent months revisiting the places Leila loved: the forest trails, the bridge, the lake. She even started carrying Leila's spare camera, taking photos as if hoping one of them might reveal something unseen. "If she's out there," she whispered once, "maybe she'll see me looking." Years passed. The trees grew thicker around the lake, and the path where Leila was last seen became overgrown. Time buried her story beneath new ones, but not for everyone. In 2010, a documentary crew visited Maplewood to film an episode about unsolved mysteries. They interviewed the locals, the sheriff, and Hannah, who still lived in town, now in her late 20s. Her voice trembled as she told the story again, her eyes distant, still haunted by the image of her friend walking into the night. "It's like she vanished between two breaths," she said. "Here one second, gone the next." During the interview, she mentioned something she'd never told anyone before. A few days before Leila disappeared, she'd received a letter in the mail, no return address. Just a small envelope with one line written inside, "Don't let her go into the woods alone." Hannah had thought it was a prank at the time. She threw it away. But now, years later, that single sentence played in her mind like a warning too late to be heard. The documentary revived old questions and unearthed new theories. Some said Leila ran away. Others believed something darker had happened. An accident, or someone from town hiding the truth. But then, something strange happened. A viewer from another state reached out to the filmmakers after seeing the episode. She claimed she recognized Leila not from 1998, but from a photograph taken just 3 years earlier. The woman sent the photo, a street in a small town in Northern California. In the background, blurred but visible, was a woman walking. Same face, same eyes, same old film camera hanging around her neck. Could it really be her? For the first time in over a decade, hope flickered again in Maplewood. But as Hannah would soon discover, some mysteries aren't meant to be solved because sometimes the truth is far stranger than the disappearance itself. When the photo surfaced in 2010, the entire town of Maplewood stirred again. The picture, grainy, slightly out of focus, showed a woman crossing a quiet street in a small California town. But to Hannah, there was no mistaking the way she carried herself, the tilt of her head, the same film camera hanging from her neck. It had to be Leila. the local sheriff reopened the case, though he warned everyone to stay realistic. People see what they want to see, he said, especially when they've been waiting 12 years. But Hannah couldn't shake the feeling in her chest, that pulse of recognition too strong to be coincidence. Within days, she packed a small bag, printed the photo, and drove nearly 12 hours south to the town of Millhaven, California, the place where the image was taken. It was a sleepy coastal town surrounded by cliffs and fog, the kind that always seemed to be hiding something. She started asking around, showing people the picture. Most just shook their heads. A few thought they might have seen someone who looked similar, usually near the old lighthouse at the edge of town. That night, Hannah stood near the lighthouse, the wind cutting cold off the ocean. The waves below crashed endlessly against the rocks. For a moment, she almost turned back, until she saw something, a flicker of movement by the cliffs. A woman, her hair tied back, walking with a familiar rhythm. Hannah's breath caught. "Leela?" she called out, but the woman didn't turn. By the time Hannah ran closer, the figure had disappeared down the rocky path leading toward the beach. The next morning, Hannah reported what she'd seen to local police, but they didn't take her seriously. "Ma'am," one officer said kindly, "people come and go here all the time. Maybe it's just someone who resembles your friend." But Hannah knew. Something deep in her heart told her it wasn't just a look-alike. Determined, she stayed in Millhaven. She rented a small room near the harbor and spent her days visiting libraries, diners, and local shops, asking questions. She learned that a quiet woman named Elena had been living near the cliffs for a few years, kept to herself, used an old film camera, and rarely came to town. No one knew much else. That name, Elena, tugged at Hannah's mind. It wasn't Leela's name, but something about it felt chosen, like someone trying to erase the past. That evening, Hannah found the small cottage near the cliffs where Elena was said to live. The place looked abandoned, ivy crawling up the walls, a porch light flickering weakly. She hesitated at the door before knocking. No answer. But when she stepped closer, she noticed something: old film negatives hanging by the window, swaying slightly in the sea breeze. Her heart raced. She could tell by the style these were Leela's. The same kind of shots, the same framing. Memories from their high school days flashed in her mind. Leela teaching her how to capture what people don't see. She turned to leave, unsure whether to be terrified or relieved, when a voice came from behind her. "You shouldn't be here." Hannah froze. A woman stood at the edge of the path, her figure outlined by the fading sunset. Her hair was shorter, her face a little older, but the eyes, the same deep hazel eyes Hannah had known her whole life, stared back. "Leela?" Hannah whispered. The woman didn't move. She looked startled, almost afraid. "You have the wrong person," she said quietly. Before turning away toward the sea, Hannah stepped forward. "It's me, Hannah. You disappeared. Everyone thought you were." "Don't," the woman interrupted, voice trembling. "You don't understand. Please, just go home." And then she was gone again, vanishing down the same rocky path where the waves swallowed the sound of her footsteps. That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. She kept replaying that moment, her friend's voice, her eyes, that flicker of pain on her face. If it truly was Leela, then why pretend otherwise? What had driven her to erase her old life? The next morning, she returned to the cottage, determined to get answers. But when she arrived, the place had been cleared out. The photographs were gone. The windows were empty. It looked as if no one had lived there for years. Heartbroken, but not ready to give up, Hannah went to the lighthouse one last time. There, under the railing, she found something half buried in dust. A single undeveloped film roll. The label read, July 1998. Her hands trembled as she held it. The same summer, Leela disappeared. If this film still held images from that night, maybe it could finally reveal what really happened. But what Hannah didn't know was that some secrets are better left unseen, and the truth inside that camera would change everything she believed about her best friend. Hannah sat in her car for a long time, holding the old film roll in her trembling hands. The air felt heavy with sea mist, her heart pounding as she turned the label over again. July 1998. It had survived 12 years untouched, waiting. She didn't know if it would even develop after all that time, but she knew she had to try. She drove to a small photography shop in Millhaven, one of the few that still process film. The owner, an elderly man named Victor, agreed to develop it carefully. "Might take a few hours," he warned. Hannah nodded, pacing the shop as the minutes crawled by. Every tick of the clock felt like a heartbeat echoing her memories. The laughter by the lake, the flicker of firelight on Leela's face, the sound of her saying goodbye. When Victor finally came out, his face looked pale. He handed her an envelope and spoke softly. "These are strange. You might want to sit down before you look." Inside were 7 photographs. The first few were familiar. The lake, the trees, the bonfire that night. But then came the 5th image. A dark figure in the forest, half lit by the fire's glow, standing just beyond the trees. The 6th photo showed Leela's face frightened, looking toward the camera as if she'd seen something behind it. And the 7th. It was blurry, distorted, almost double exposed. But it showed 2 people, one of them clearly Leela, the other impossible to recognize. The pictures sent a chill down Hannah's spine. She didn't know what to believe. Had someone followed Leela that night? Or had she met someone there? And if so, who? She left the shop and drove straight to the police station, hoping to show the photos. But when she got there, something unexpected happened. The officer on duty took one look and frowned. "Where did you get these?" Hannah explained everything: the photo from the documentary, the trip to Millhaven, the cottage, the woman who looked like Leela, and finally, the undeveloped film. The officer hesitated before replying. There was an old report back in 1998 about a drifter who stayed near that same area, working odd jobs. "Went missing the same week your friend disappeared. We never found him either." That night, Hannah returned to her motel, her mind spinning. She placed the photos on the table and stared at them under the lamp. Something about the last image, the way the shadows bent, didn't feel natural. Then she noticed something she hadn't before. In the corner of the final photo, faint but visible, were words scratched into the dirt near Leela's foot. "I had to disappear." Her breath caught. It wasn't fear she felt, it was heartbreak. The next morning, she drove once more to the cliffs, the place where she'd last seen her. The fog rolled in thick and slow, swallowing the edges of the ocean. Standing near the lighthouse, Hannah whispered into the wind, "I know it's you. You don't have to hide." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a voice, soft, familiar, and full of sadness. "I never meant to hurt anyone." Hannah turned, and there she was, Leela, standing a few feet away, her hair tousled by the wind, eyes shimmering with tears. "Why, Leela? Why disappear? Why let everyone think you were gone?" Leela looked toward the sea. "That night, I saw something I wasn't supposed to. Someone from town, someone I trusted. They begged me to keep quiet about what I saw. I was scared. I thought if I ran far enough, I could protect everyone. Even you. But you could have come back," Hannah said softly, her voice breaking. Leela shook her head. "I tried. Every time I wanted to, something stopped me. It's easier to be gone than to explain a truth no one would believe." Tears filled Hannah's eyes. "You were my best friend. You still are." For a long moment, neither spoke. The waves crashed below, the wind howling around them. Then Leela handed Hannah something small, her old camera. "You always said photos tell stories better than words," she whispered. "Now you can finish mine." Before Hannah could say another word, Leela turned and walked toward the fog, her figure fading slowly until she disappeared from view. Not vanishing like before, but leaving with a strange kind of peace. Hannah never saw her again. A few weeks later, she returned to Maplewood. She gave the photos and the story to the authorities, though most didn't know what to make of it. Some said Leela had suffered trauma and wanted a new life. Others whispered about secrets buried deep within the town. But for Hannah, none of that mattered anymore. She had her answer. Leela hadn't been taken. She had chosen to disappear to protect someone, or something, too complicated to explain. Years later, Hannah opened a small gallery filled with Leela's photographs, each one capturing the beauty in hidden places. At the entrance hung the last photo they ever took together, under a simple title, "The Girl Who Vanished Without a Trace." But Hannah always believed Leela was still out there somewhere beyond the fog, camera in hand, still telling stories through the lens. And sometimes when she walked near the lake at dusk, she could almost hear the click of a shutter, like a whisper from a memory that never truly faded.